The interview that proves nobody's immune to a mirror, including the king of late night. The moment Stephen Colbert realized he'd met his match, and it wasn't Elon Musk. The lights of the Late Show studio burned hotter than usual that night, casting an almost surreal glow over the set. The air was thick with the kind of tension that precedes a storm, electric, unspoken, humming just beneath the surface of forced smiles and rehearsed banter. Stephen Colbert, the undisputed master of political satire and razor-sharp wit, reclined in his chair with the ease of a man who had spent decades disarming the most powerful people on the planet. His fingers drummed lightly against the armrest, a telltale sign of restless energy beneath his polished exterior. Across from him, Elon Musk shifted in his seat, his expression unreadable, a chess player contemplating his opening move. The audience, packed into the studio like eager spectators at a gladiatorial arena, held their collective breath. This wasn't just another celebrity interview. This was a collision of two titans, one who built empires by breaking rules, the other who built a career by exposing the absurdity of those who enforced them. But as the cameras rolled, neither man could have predicted that the real battle wouldn't be between them. It would be between Colbert and the uncomfortable truth, lurking in the shadows of his own persona. The interview began as these things always did, with practiced charm and the illusion of spontaneity. Musk, ever the provocateur, cracked a joke about buying Twitter just to see what would happen, his voice dripping with the kind of nonchalance that only a billionaire could afford. Colbert, ever the quick-draw artist of comedic timing, fired back with a quip about how chaos is just another Tuesday for you, earning the expected ripple of laughter from the crowd. The rhythm was familiar, comforting, a well-rehearsed dance between host and guest, each playing their part to perfection. But then, without warning, the music stopped. Musk leaned forward, his posture shifting from relaxed to deliberate, and said something that cut through the scripted banter like a scalpel. "You know, Stephen, the funniest thing about satire is how quickly it becomes the very thing it mocks." The words hung in the air, heavy and unignorable. Colbert's smile remained intact, but something behind his eyes flickered, a momentary lapse in the armor of his persona. His fingers tightened imperceptibly around his cue cards, the paper crinkling under the pressure. Where was this going? This wasn't part of the pre-interview notes. This wasn't safe territory. Musk, sensing the shift, didn't relent. His voice dropped lower, quieter, the way a predator circles its prey before the strike. "You spent years mocking authority, but now you are the authority. You're not the guy in the basement with a podcast anymore. You're the establishment. So tell me, when's the last time you actually changed your mind about something?" The studio, which had been a cacophony of laughter and applause just moments earlier, fell into a silence so profound it was almost deafening. Colbert's eyes darted to the audience, then back to Musk, searching for the punchline. But there wasn't one. This wasn't a setup for a joke. This was a direct challenge, a gauntlet thrown at the feet of a man who had built his career on never letting the audience see him sweat. The air between them crackled with something raw and unscripted, the kind of tension that couldn't be manufactured or edited out in post-production. Colbert opened his mouth to reply, his brain scrambling for the perfect deflection, a self-deprecating joke, a witty pivot, something to regain control of the narrative. But Musk wasn't finished. "You interview politicians, but you never debate them. You let them say whatever they want, then you undercut them with a punchline. That's not holding power accountable. That's just making sure everyone leaves happy." The audience, usually a reliable source of energy, sat frozen. Even the crew behind the cameras had stopped moving, their hands hovering over switches and dials as if unsure whether to cut to commercial or let the moment play out. Colbert's usual arsenal, the raised eyebrow, the exaggerated sigh, the well-timed ad break, felt suddenly useless. For the first time in years, the king of late-night comedy had no joke ready. The mask of the performer slipped, just for a second, revealing something far more vulnerable beneath. a man confronted with the uncomfortable mirror of his own legacy. Then, the unthinkable happened. Colbert paused. Not for comedic effect, not to milk the audience's anticipation, but because he genuinely had nothing to say. His expression shifted from performative amusement to something far more human: consideration. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, until he finally spoke, his voice stripped of its usual polish and bravado. "You're right," he admitted, the words tasting foreign on his tongue. "I don't know if I've changed my mind lately. Maybe that's the problem." The studio, which had been holding its breath, seemed to exhale all at once. Musk, for once in his life, didn't push further. He simply nodded, as if he'd gotten exactly what he came for, not a victory, but an acknowledgement. By the time the interview limped to its conclusion, the energy in the room had transformed entirely. The audience didn't erupt into their usual applause. They exhaled, as if they'd just witnessed something rare and uncomfortably intimate. Colbert's trademark sign-off, "We'll be right back," felt hollow, almost trivial in the wake of what had just transpired. As the cameras cut to commercial, he remained seated, staring at his desk like it held the answers to questions he hadn't known he needed to ask. The crew exchanged nervous glances. No one knew what to do. This wasn't in the playbook. Later, backstage, Colbert's producer found him still in his suit, his tie loosened, scrolling through Twitter on his phone with a detached focus. The clip of the exchange had already gone viral, splashed across every platform with headlines ranging from "Colbert's wake-up call" to "Musk finally shuts someone up." The producer hesitated, then asked the question everyone was thinking. "You okay?" Colbert looked up, not with anger or embarrassment, but with something closer to curiosity, the dawning realization of a man who had just glimpsed his own reflection and didn't entirely recognize what he saw. "Yeah," he said finally, his voice quieter than usual. "I just forgot what it felt like to be listened to instead of performed for." The most dangerous question isn't the one that makes you laugh, it's the one that makes you think. True influence isn't about controlling the narrative. It's about being brave enough to let it challenge you. Now, over to you. When's the last time someone made you pause instead of react? Was it a stranger's comment, a friend's hard truth, or a moment alone with your own thoughts? Drop a comment. Let's see who's actually willing to admit they've been humbled. And if you haven't, well, maybe that's the problem.